Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creator of Connections 50 Plus. And as usual, with me on the show is my colleague.
Hello, everyone. I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, the other co-creator of 5.8G Alive, Connections 50 Plus. How are you?
Yes, Terri-Ann. Happy, still celebrating. Celebrating life. Celebrating life, you know. And we are going, Terri-Ann, it is so beautiful when we can celebrate like this as our Emancipation series, recognizing the families who have, you know, done so much, who has such a great legacy and has, you know, contributed a lot to society.
Mm-hmm.
So we are continuing with our series. We had our first two, and now today we introducing our other guests, who you all will see, very popular person, you know, very, very successful businesswoman we have as our guest today.
Great. You know, Jennifer, one of the beautiful things about these series is that, you know, it brings home to me that at the end of the day, when you see a successful legacy or a successful family, because all of the people we've interviewed don't have active, the Seminats, their cultural family, the business has emerged in. But at the end of the day, you recognize that success in carrying on tradition and success in continuing business, success in continuing to be of service is something that exists across all of our groups. And it is very, very important for us to do what we're doing in terms of highlighting the Afro heritage of some of these very important families who are providing human service in so many ways, not only to us as a people, but to the nation and the nation as a whole, you know, and it is really a privilege to be able to deliver these stories. So I'm excited about today's guest because we all have customers and clients. So without further ado, let's go talking some beauty.
So as mentioned, we have our special guest. This is the third in our Emancipation series. And we have with us, you know, a very popular face. And this is Cheryl Bowles. Cheryl is one of the most successful businesswomen in Trinidad and Tobago. Cheryl is also the founder of the Herbarium Limited, and you all know too of Cher-Mére. So in chatting with Cheryl, you will hear much more about the business venture and her journey, and we can learn so much from her. So Cheryl, welcome again, and let's get into it. Tell us all about the business, the Herbarium, and how it started. You know, we're doing a legacy here, so from the beginning.
Great. Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure. And it's great to be able to share this journey because actually our family has just completed. We're going to be launching a book about our whole legacy from my grandmother who wrote her memoirs. And she gave it to me to type. And she was born in 1899. So I like to start there.
Nice.
Great.
Is that Merle?
No, that's my grandmother. Merle was her daughter.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So my grandmother was born in 1899 in New Grant. My grandfather was from Princestown. He was born in 1890. And they planted the seed, they built the foundation, especially my grandmother. I think she was ahead of her time.
What was her name, Cheryl?
Margaret Maureen Waldron. My grandfather was Percival Hamilton Waldron.
Wow.
Margaret Percival.
Yes.
A very strong name when you hear Percival. Yeah.
Yes, you know, came from different backgrounds. His family was a little more affluent. They owned estates in Princestown area. He was sent to boarding school in Woodbrook.
Wow.
My grandmother.
That was abroad in those days.
Yes. His mother was from Montserrat, and his father, well, I would assume because it was just like 40 years after slavery. So that sort of legacy. My grandmother, now Margaret Maureen, she was the one who went to school. Her father was an overseer at an estate, and he was very focused on education. So she went to New Grant EC School, and then she did so well, she got a scholarship to study in Port of Spain at the Teachers Training College.
Nice.
But her father died just as she was about to go, and she was very distressed. But in those days, you know, communities lived together and worked well. So Mr. Dolly, who was a teacher, a headmaster, paid her scholarship for the first year, paid, you know, the assistants. And from then on, she was able to, you know, do little things, and the scholarship money went up. And she became a pupil teacher. She became a pupil teacher at Tranquility, where she did her training. And that time, Tranquility was a kind of uppity school.
I remember that.
It was prestige. It was prestige in those days.
My eldest sister went Tranquility in those early days, yes.
Not 18-something, Jennifer.
No, but I mean, in early days, so Tranquility still maintained that.
Well, this was in the early 1920s.
Yes.
And then she went back to, when she graduated, she went back to New Grant, and she taught at the school. My grandfather went away at that time, they got married and she taught, and then he went away to fight in the First World War. And he came back, and during that period, when the men came back from the war, the woman had to resign from teaching. And she resented that a lot. And then she assisted by renting a house out as a post office. During that period, she had 8 children.
You see what resigning from work does?
And during that period, because of her strength in education, she made a decision to come into Port of Spain, to Woodbrook. She sold her house to the government, and with that money, she came into Woodbrook and purchased a property at 57 Carlos Street, Woodbrook. That was about 1930 or so.
That's your grandmother doing that?
That's my grandmother doing that.
I swear, the resilience of the woman is coming through from the start.
Yes.
It was always there, yes.
Because she had a situation where one of her children died. They were living in Blanchard because my grandfather was a ward officer, and he used to have to travel all different counties, and they moved. And because of the lack of a medical service, couldn't get a doctor in time. The baby died. So with that, she said, no, I'm coming in to Port of Spain. I'm going to educate my children and ensure that they have medical facilities available. And she did that. And I grew up at 57 Carlos Street. She had the opportunity, actually, the real estate agent told her, buy 2 properties because there was another one in Alfredo Street and you could rent that one. But she was not business oriented and feared that if she couldn't pay the mortgage, she might
lose it.
Lose everything.
But she was a very astute woman. She was a thrifty woman, and all her children went to school, whether my eldest aunt, who founded Leno's Business School, she won an exhibition to bishops. The second one won an exhibition to bishops. And my uncles, QRC, and they all went away eventually to further their studies, right? My mother was always into hair and skin. So she stayed and began to work with 1 or 2 hairdressers in the area. And then when she met my father and they got married, she went to England with him. And she learned hairdressing from one of the top Black English hairdressers in London and worked there until she came back to Trinidad. She was always very popular in her trade and wherever, and she moved a lot, her customers followed. She was the one who said to me while I was at Nestle, why don't you make a hair food for us in the Caribbean?
Yes.
You know, we are always importing and, you know, do something for us in the Caribbean. So hence the name Cher-Mére. Cheryl as part of my name and Cheryl Bowles as part of her name. It also means dear mother in French in a kind of bastardized way.
Yes, yes.
And when I went to university, I went to Sir George Williams University at that time, now called Concordia. I did my degree in biochemistry and then returned to Trinidad.
When did you return?
In 1975.
Okay, so you were there with all the confusion in 70.
No, I was post. I went in September. It happened in February, but there was still a lot of consciousness.
Yes.
That era was extremely exciting, you know.
Yes.
And, you know, during that period, I was able to see Stokely Carmichael. I actually met Muhammad Ali at a reception in Canada. And we were exposed to a lot of Black consciousness.
Yeah.
And of course, it spilled over or developed in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay. Cheryl, I want to ask you a question about your mom's Merle's business, because I know that she was one of the foremost hairdressers, as you said, in Port of Spain. Could you tell us a bit more about her business and how she operated? What was the psyche, the culture of that business, and therefore how it influenced you and how you developed your business?
Well, my mother was very glamorous, very fashion forward. All my aunts are. She lived in Carlos Street, which was one of the biggest streets in Woodbrook, and the street that had many children. So it was a street that people from all over gravitated towards because of the amount of children, because of the amount of, you know. And so I guess the foundation started from there. My grandmother said she was always interested in hair. And even when sending her to commercial school, it was she would still go on the afternoon. And so she just allowed it. At 57 Carlos Street, when she came back from London, my grandmother gave her permission to build an annex to the back of the house, where she first operated her hair salon, and we lived in the back. And then my father came back from England because he went to study engineering. He went twice, actually. And during that time, because she was popular, and she loved to go to the races. So that expansion, just from her popularity, her beauty, her savviness, she just developed her business. And it flourished. You know, my grandfather was always supportive. In fact, our family has always been that supportive nucleus. Even for my business, nearly every member of my family, from aunts to uncles to cousins, have worked in my business, you know, at some point in time. So then she moved away. My parents got divorced. She moved away. She went back to England to do, you know, to work. Then she came back, opened another salon. And then when she got restless again, she went to New York. But wherever she went, yes. In fact, she used to go to fashion fair, you know, in Macy's in New York, buy her cosmetics.
Yes,
and
the pink containers, the pink.
And they found her so beautiful, they asked her to work with them at the counters there.
Nice, you know? At Macy's, wow.
And so she came back to Trinidad because she always loved Trinidad. She loved carnival, she loved family, you know. I grew and lived with my grandmother, my grandparents. And I went to Tranquility School, primary. And then I went to St. James Secondary. And during that period, I became prefect, head girl. And that started to give me a little, unknowingly, maybe unconsciously, about leadership. Okay. And I did a year at Polytechnic and then went to Canada to study. Yes. I did over my last year of high school there, and then entered Sir George Williams University. And always wanted to come back to Trinidad. So in 1975, I returned to Trinidad. And in 1976, I was hired by Nestle as their first woman executive. As an assistant chemist. Yeah. After 1 year, my boss said, "You can run the place, I'm going." He left to migrate. And the managing director at that time was English. And he said, "You know, women go and have babies." I said, "This is modern time. We make adjustments." And I did very well at Nestle. In fact, the Nestle bosses used to think I wasn't, they used to tell my boss, "I'm not Trinidadian, I must be Swiss." Because of my passion, my efficiency, I headed up the product development when all the orchard juices were being revamped. Our team did all the development in Trinidad. Yeah. That was abnormal because Nestle has records or research centers in different parts of the world that would do research and development. But I just enjoyed it. I had a natural knack for it. I was head of the quality control department. And in Nestle, the chemist is really, really high up. Yeah. The chemist stops the plant. Critical, yeah. Yeah, so that sort of grounding, you know, and during that period, Trinidad went into the first set of recession, early 90s. And of course, we were challenged. Many of our perks as managers were taken away. And so we had to look at how now we could benefit, how to generate some sort of tax relief. At that point in time, the government was given $2,500 per individual to write off against your tax if you join the credit union. Yes. So myself and two other guys decided we would research about credit unions, and we formed Nestle Credit Union.
Wow.
with the support of our bosses.
Yes.
I was able to convince about 400 employees to join the union, credit union, and it operates till today.
Yeah.
And people would come up to me and say, Ms. Bowles, with the credit union, I was able to buy my house, my car. So it was really, really a very powerful experience there. I got married in 1979. My husband was Basil Motley. I met him while I was in Canada studying. He was studying too. And we came back to Trinidad, and I had my daughter Abba in 1980. I also got divorced in 1982 because it didn't work out, right? And I think part of that was that unconscious grounding from my grandmother, who was very, in a way, independent, but said that she didn't have the choices that, we have. And therefore, if something wasn't working, it was in the best interest of us to move on.
Yes.
So
doing your own way, Cheryl, your own way.
Yes, independent minded, from a strong, because our family is female dominated. My mother had 4 girl siblings, three brothers, right? But the women were, I think my grandmother instilled unconsciously in all of us.
Jennifer, I always tell you, there's something about South. You see, the South.
No, I'm listening to her. I totally don't agree, but Cheryl, that's okay. I can understand. It still came to Porterspain after,
Yeah. Well, so when I now am divorced, I'm still working at Nestle. I went through a really powerful spiritual experience. And during that period, I was God inspired really to move on from Nestle and create my own thing. I knew nothing about cosmetics. I actually started off with herbal teas. And I was asked by Nestle to work in L'Oreal Paris because at that time they owned 51%. And I said, no, I had just gotten divorced. My daughter is young. And I felt here was where I wanted to be, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, everybody panicked and supported because I was leaving a 6-figure salary job in 1985 to go into something unknown. All my grandmother would say is, are you paying the mortgage? Because, as African people, we have come through through our experience and social engineering. It was mainly the public service. So, we were not necessarily in the north risk takers and business people.
Yes.
Outwardly. So my thing was, well, if I fall, I'll get up. I told my boss that, my English boss that, he looked at me and then they asked me to stay on for a year to complete some R&D projects, which I did. And then one of my first jobs was at a colleague of mine, her hairdressing shop in Curragh. No, that was the second. The first was at Roundabout Plaza. I was driving one day and a Roundabout Plaza and I saw construction, and in my bold, brave self, I said, I wonder if they have a space. And I went in, met the property manager. He said, there's one space left in the basement, a little space. And, but we have to get Mr. Ram Kirpalani's permission because he had somebody else allocated. I did a proposal because mainly at that time it was herbs. I was blending local herbs with imported herbs. And from then on, well, I was accepted. And from then on, I hired one person. I was still working at Nestle. And in 1983, 84, I told them, I started this business and I'm going to leave. You know, I want to leave. It took a year for me to leave because of the work. I couldn't just leave the lab, and they had to bring someone from England in the interim to, you know, fill the post until they found somebody suitable. And I think once that decision was decided in terms of them bringing somebody, I started to lose my hair. My hair started to drop. And then I realized, okay, you have no turning back now.
The stress is real.
This is it.
And once I recognized that and prayed on it, the hair came back normal. And the journey has been interesting. Through my mother's friends and contacts, I was able to begin selling the hair food. At first, it wasn't accepted, but my mother's friend, Mr. Lance Lashley, said, if it's good, they'll come back, because they were distributing at that time Gordon Grant. I was still at Nestle. And then when I left Nestle, I took over the distributorship. I started with one person on the sales, Mrs. Angela Permel. She's deceased now. And then my cousins joined me. My Uncle Carl will drive the van. So throughout, they were all retired, you know.
The family support.
Oh my gosh, continuously.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like my cousin Leslie, when he came from university and during the interim waiting for a job, he would do sales. My cousin Valerie Boren, she is a doctor in biochemistry. During her tending a thing, she worked with me. My aunt, Mrs. Cynthia Allen, she worked with me for years in the office. So I had all that support and expertise. So it was really, really a journey with a lot of pain, because many days I said, who sent me to do this? And then I would say something, my God would say, oh, you have little faith. But through that journey, some really powerful things happened unexpectedly. In 1991, the BBC clothes show came to Trinidad, post 1990. And I was one of 3 companies they highlighted. They came and they did a feature, and it was aired in the BBC, and I got my agent for England from there.
Nice.
You know, then in 1992, our company joined this independent cosmetic manufacturers and distributors organization in the US. It was a medium size of the smaller cosmetic companies like Flory Roberts and Independent. And they would send you a newsletter by mail every month. And I remember this was post-Carnival. It was Ash Wednesday. I got this magazine, and there was a small little insert about a conference in Canada, US small business and Canadian women entrepreneurs. And I just filled it out and sent it via email. And I told my assistant, I don't think I'm getting this. It looked like it's more for foreign, you know, US, Canada. But lo and behold, I'm sitting in my office around 5 o'clock one evening, and I get this call, which I would never forget. Hi, is this Cheryl Bowles? I said, yes. My name is Kathy. I am an intern at the White House. I said, White House? You mean the White House? She said, yes. She said, you've been selected to attend this conference.
Wow.
The time is short, so in a few days, you should get a package, you know, with all the particulars. In a few days, I didn't get any, so I emailed and I said, I haven't gotten anything yet. Well, within an hour, I got a call from the US SBA. I got a call from Canada because they were not aware that it was for anybody external. But coming from the White House, they had to respond.
Yes.
And that to me was divine intervention, because I don't know today who in the White House chose me.
How it got there?
Yes, how it got there. And
definitely your prayers work.
And absolutely. So I went in actually as a US delegate, and I met Secretary of Commerce Bill Daley. He was also a Secretary of Commerce in Barack Obama time. He came back from the Clinton era. And he had visited Trinidad, and the conference was powerful. It was at the Royal York Hotel, now the Fairmont Hotel. And what was interesting, the challenges that all these women businesses faced was similar to what I faced, you know?
Universal.
Universal. So that came back, left me empowered. We started some work in the US. And at that time, my cousin was doing it, but then she got married and had to give it up. So actually now we're preparing to go into the US again, you know. So from that point of view, that was interesting. And then a few years after, the UNDP chose me to go to Ghana to present to the Ghanaian Association of Women Entrepreneurs, my story. And that was also extremely powerful.
Wow.
So because of this journey, because of entrepreneurship, because of taking that leap, you never know, you never know how the wind blows.
You. Yeah.
In the charity lesson, really, get started.
Yes.
You know, when you have the idea, is to go with it, but definitely have that faith and learn to control the butterflies in your stomach when things get rough.
You have to prepare yourself. And I tell people all the time, if you want to go anywhere, you need to have the skill sets beside the desire. Because it's a kind of holistic package.
Exactly.
And you will grow from there to there. The journey hasn't been easy, but it's been so rewarding in terms of what we've been able to accomplish. My staff, some of them have left to go on to do their own businesses. And also, we also have a strong community give back project. So we have donated monies to Cancer Society. Just in 2019, we did a SCA students with talent, students for talent, because after SCA, the kids were just, and it was a fabulous project. And so, the journey challenging, and even now very challenging coming into this post-COVID era. During COVID, we were virtually, I lost 80% of my business because the spas generated most of that.
Yeah. Cheryl, can you, now, in many ways, and you look at the industry, people may consider Cher-Mére a niche product. I don't think Cher-Mére is a niche product, but could you, for the benefit of our viewers, to make sure they all understand the breadth of the range and your process of developing, because you said you started with the Herbarium. Did the tea start in the Herbarium? So was the Herbarium teas? And I know you said your mom told you to do a hair food. So what was the history of the development of that breadth of product that is Cher-Mére?
Yeah, I remember coming back from university and asking my mother, I wanted to research our local herbs, and right, because it was powerful. And she told me, you wrote me about that since in university, which I couldn't remember. So I began to blend teas, local. So I would blend chamomile with soursop and started Nennen teas, right? That was my first foray, but the teas had shelf life problems. And so I had to disband that, right? And in the interim, my mother said, why don't you do hair food for us? And then I started the hair food. And then within that period, my daughter would fill, because she knows everything. We started with one person, and then we went to two, and then we went to almost 30 people within these spas over a period of time.
And that's the hair food that is on the shelves today.
Yes.
Cher-Mére hair food, yes.
Yes. And people come up to me all the time. My mother used this, my grandmother used this hair food, and a lot of them use it on their children because of the ability to help stimulate growth, manageability, and it just worked. From that, then I developed the hot oil, the shampoo, conditioner. And then I decided, you know, if someone had a concern, there's no way they needed to have a reference point where they could come. And after Roundabout Plaza, which was burned down, my uncle had a building on Tragridge Road. He was a dentist. My mother hairdressing shop was in front, and then he gave me the upstairs, and I opened the Cher-Mére Skin Institute.
Yes.
Now, during all that, it was, I mean, hard, because as a woman-owned business, I used most of my funds. And
also Black, you focus, it was focused on African hair, which itself had its own trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
But what was interesting, all our products transcend ethnicity. So the hair food was used by everybody.
Exactly.
And that is what I wanted, because it was natural, universal. I always had this kind of global look towards the product. Keeping it relatively simple, no set of heavy chemicals, no color. And that was really my foundation in product development. You know, even though I came from a food background, the same basic principles existed. And that is what allowed me really to grow. I started maybe with $10,000. I went to the bank, Republic Bank, and I knew someone there, and all that helps. I'll prepare a proposal, and he was able to get me, actually it was Mr. Ed Gooden, who is now the chairman of PTSC. Yes, he was a manager at Republic Bank on Gordon Grant's building there.
That branch, yeah.
Yeah, and I started. A lot of challenges though, with the system being undercapitalized and stuff. But one persevered, and also emanated from that too, I was recruited during the YTEP, when YTEP was founded. I was one of the founding board directors of YTEP, which was, again, another powerful experience. I also, during this whole journey, was picked by Prime Minister Manning as deputy chair of SIMCOL when CPEP was introduced. And so internationally, as I shared some of the different, I was also then later on invited by United Nations to go to Switzerland. You know, so the training, the exposure, and while at Nestle too, I also went to training to Switzerland, Venezuela, England. So my grounding, my foundation was very, very wide. And I think that helped a lot in terms of, beside the spiritual, I had the technical know and management know-how in which to develop the business.
Yeah.
Cheryl, you know, I want to ask a bit, I knew is your daughter in your business also?
Yes, but I'll get to that. I'll first want to
Yeah.
see how Cher-Mére became household.
Right.
I
And
was,
then
I was
yeah.
very brave. Again, early, I approached TTT and I said, okay, I'd like to do a 5-minute feature, maybe every other week before Young and Restless, because I knew at that time it was high audience, 5 to 12. I prepared the script and with a colleague who prepared Joe Donovan, prepared the set. I did that for a few years. So I would really, it was soft because I would say, use the aloe plant, link it to the product, but share the benefits of aloe. And I used to do a questionnaire. I did a herbal guide and asked people to write in if they wanted. And at one point, TTT said, stop. There were too many people writing. So I knew I touched a nerve.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
I would use this show now to say, okay, I'm going to be in Princestown or San Fernando today at this particular pharmacy or something like that to promote the product, and we do free skin analysis and people would line up. So that was how I became household.
Yeah.
My daughter worked with me throughout. The different things, they call her the real boss, the little boss, the real boss, you know? And when she went to Canada to study, she did engineering at Queen's University. And then she was invited by the Royal Military College of Canada as not as a non-military person to pursue her master's in chemical engineering.
Nice.
And then she did her PhD in chemical engineering. She was awarded the Governor General Gold of Canada. She actually received the award from the Governor General, who was a woman at that time. And then she decided one day, I want to do this in Canada, because she married a Canadian, and he's a civil engineer. And one day now, she's walking along a very busy business street in Canada, in Kingston, Ontario, which is like 3 hours from Toronto east, between Montreal and Ottawa. Beautiful little town. And she saw this building because she was researching renting. And she said, Mommy, the rents are so high and the taxes are so high. So she's walking with her mother-in-law one day and she saw this little building. And she told her mother-in-law, I'm going to buy this. This is where I'll set up Cher-Mére. And she did, again, family support. And husband and her savings, they bought the building. And it's started Cher-Mére. So this was a mainly Caucasian town, right? But my daughter is very gregarious. She's a networker, she's pleasant. She's on several different boards. She's chair of the Kingston Downtown Community. She started a whole Black Engineers Forum in Queen's University, and now trying to get bursary and a chair established for Black engineers.
Nice.
She also, when she first came to Canada, and today she's signed up for youth in diversion, where they would have children at risk challenged, instead of going into a real civil type court. They had these kind of family courts. Sometimes she'd accompany children or teenagers. And she continues in that. In fact, now she's working with United Way as a volunteer in homelessness. She's just busy and has 4 children and a husband and runs a business.
Beautiful.
You know?
That's where she got that strength from, Cheryl.
Yeah, but
she's passed on, huh?
Yeah, she's building on it. I just don't know. Everybody doesn't know, but she is so she just she knows everybody, you know, and that town is about 140,000 people, but it's a university town. You have Queens, you have St. Lawrence, and it's a government town. The military is there, and she's been able to build a clientele in a mainly Caucasian environment, and they love it. They love the aloe and oatmeal mask because it's so organic.
Yeah.
And so she continues to develop. We have a strong online presence, and you know, she is the future.
Yes.
It's the future, the present and the future.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And you were saying that, I mean, the business developed, your family support. I mean, those legacy issues are there. You lost 80% of your business because the spas were closed, and a lot of your business goes through spas. Of course, there's a strong retail presence with some of the main cosmetics companies.
Yes.
And that. How and what has been your story in terms of surviving those 2 or 3 years of COVID and coming out of it, looking forward?
Well, when COVID hit, one of the things stores like Pennywise and some of the drugstores, Pennywise had drugstores, were allowed to stay open. And we were able to continue our business there. With respect to the spas, well, we kept people on board until we could. We never say like fired anybody, but as soon as we came back, we all started again. What we did all collectively decide, because staff also decided that some of them wanted to work 3 days, 4 days because of online with children. And so we worked with our staff on that. It was very challenging because you had 2 shutdowns. So as you're coming up, you're shut down again. And one was very distressing for me because on 2 occasions, it was just before Mother's Day, which is the second highest retail period. I had to use a lot of my savings because you still had overhead expenses.
Yeah.
Some of the landlords were very understanding, you know, and we were able for a little while. They, you know, didn't take rent or took part. And if we had to lobby in some of the malls, we had to lobby very hard for that. And when we came back out, I had to virtually refinance my whole business.
Yeah.
Monies that I didn't think I would have had to now borrow again to almost restart, you know, but I must say that my bankers were supportive.
Nice.
You know, in terms of that. And so, because I think too, I was always organized. If they need information, my accounts are there. If and I always had a rapport, continue to have a rapport with my bankers. I check my bank account every morning because I need to know what is going on.
Where you are.
And if I know I'm going to be over, I engage my bank. I said, listen, I'm going to be, they'll ask me when it will come down. And I will say, I think within 3 days based on X, Y, and Z. So I've always had that. Well, it has improved. And I think one of the things with the improvement was the rise of women managers in the bank.
They understood.
Yeah. So
they understood not only your product, but they understood you.
Well, yes. And up to today, one of them said, Ms. Bowles, you are normally in this bank, you're always organized, you know? Also too, I want to go back a little bit. My mother also now, as a hairdresser, because she was into color and dyes, became the distributor for Baijian hair dye in Trinidad and Tobago. It came from Hoyu in Japan.
Yes.
She developed this product for 21 years. And not all the time she struggled, not all the time, but the Japanese were very loyal people.
Yeah.
And when she passed, I approached them, got the family together and say, because some of members of the family before had been investors and in her, it wasn't formalized as in a company. We formed a company and I asked them, listen, this is something legacy, mommy's legacy, we could build on it. And we approached the Japanese and asked them if they would allow us to distribute it.
Yes.
They agreed, and for the last 14 years, we've done it successfully.
Wow.
And what it is important, it's all family owned, and every year everybody gets dividends.
Great.
Beautiful.
Yes, congrats. That's fantastic. Yes.
And out of that, 8 years ago, they purchased a building in San Fernando, and that is where the Cher-Mére is in San Fernando. Because I look at practices of other ethnic groups in terms of how business is done.
Exactly.
And how the importance of keeping the wealth within and generating intergenerational wealth.
Definitely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is important, critical.
It is the way to become wealthy. It is never one generation or one person or one arm of the family. Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, and I chaired that up till recently. My cousin who retired is now chairing it, Leslie Boren. And we've always been that sort of family. You know, we worked, they relied on me, no lacquer, no bacchanal. Again, straight, we have accountants, we report, board meetings. And so it was always, again, easy to get financing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No, you finish your point.
So for me, that is very strong. And this is one of the reasons we decided to do the book.
Yes.
And I will extend an invitation to you when we are ready to launch it.
Yes.
It's now being finalized. I've just got the final manuscript, which we're going to
beautiful. I love these stories of our local entrepreneurs, and it's so important to document it and let it be known and set an example. Yes, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
No, Cheryl, just of course looking at our timing, and I don't want us to close without you, say something you can, you think key aspects of your chat that our audience can learn from. Let me put it that way.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I have always had wonderful staff and talented staff, and we nurtured them and they've grown, and many of my staff are over 10, 12 years with me. Some of them, one just 2 years ago retired, 30 years, And the key to anything is people. The key to anything is relationship. One of the things I'm very strong on is follow your dream. We have one life, one opportunity. And it may not be timely now, but if that is your passion, continue to build and nurture, prepare for it, and focus and develop, and you go for it. That's it. One life, prepare. You have your paperwork so that if you have to go for financing, it's easily attainable and you can maintain, because you could start a business, but it's maintenance. We have been doing business now for 35 years, and every day is a new day. It's not to say that you could stop and, okay, no, a business takes on a life. And for some time you're married to it in order to really let it grow successfully.
Yeah.
The thing is also the legacy. we don't know what our children want. They may want to come in or they may not. And I've said with my daughter, you follow your dream. If it's, this is, I would have, but I had to let her follow and realize this is it. With that independence and even developing that business, she became known as a business person and was given, as I say, appointed on boards and different things like that. She did during the COVID something called Let's Talk Kingston about race during the Black Lives Matter. She got the mayor involved, chief of police, and brought people together. You know, so I'm very proud of her. She again was just profiled in a magazine in Canada, and she mapped her journey from Trinidad to Canada. So she has 4 kids, and we hope, we don't know, that they will understand, you know.
Continue.
Yes. And enjoy the process. It's hard, but enjoy the process.
Well, Cheryl, story, that's such a wonderful journey and the story that's told. I know our audience, wow, probably sitting back and so much to learn. So we thank you.
The pictures, the many pictures.
Yes,
I'm going to scan it.
And you know,
Yes.
Cher-Mére is a household name. You know, we all know Cher-Mére, we
Yes.
all know the products.
Yes.
We find you in all the malls. Definitely, you know, we would, Terri-Ann, we have been telling Cheryl, all our guests so far, and all women and family, so happen to be all 3 of you all, that we need you all to come back because there's so much more information, you know, that you can share and we can learn from, you know. So we thank you again. And, you know,
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure. And
congrats on the book. We're looking forward for that because
Right.
that would be really great information, a great legacy.
It's
you know.
important. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And it was a pleasure. Enjoy, have a great day. And I'm excited to see it, you know,
Sure.
when you release it.
Okay,
great.
yes.
Take care.
Cheryl.
Nice, very much.
Yes, Terri-Ann, I'm still smiling. What a story. I love these stories and to listen to the journey. Wow. You know, that's all I could say now. Wow.
Yeah.
Really, so many lessons in it. And, you know, for us to be so proud.
Yeah. And one thing that I really do admire Cheryl Bowles and Cher-Mére for is that they are manufacturers.
Yes.
It is so hard to have a manufactured product established because she is up against the gamut of brands. I mean, everything, whether it is Pond's, whether it is L'Oreal, whatever brand.
Oh,
there
lots,
exists.
yes.
And again, to have decided to stay in Trinidad and work through, you know, I have a retail background, so I understand the trouble she has to get and maintain her shelf space. But that she got it and never lost it is really testimony to the quality of the product. First of all, it wouldn't have stayed if it wasn't good, excellent. And to her brilliance as a businesswoman,
So
being
brilliant.
able to represent, and you know, it's easy to do a service. You can duck and move, but as she said, you lost 80% of your business during COVID, and she has been resilient and come through. So again, I say hats off to Cheryl Bowles and Cher-Mére. I am so proud of that business. As I said, I
agree. It is an extremely competitive market, both locally and internationally.
Yes. But she has made it, and many people across generations appreciate her product and service. So with that,
A
I
great
hope
role
you all
model. Yeah.
continue to be excited about our entrepreneurs and families that we are presenting. So, Jennifer, yet another
That's it.
Wednesday
No.
has passed.
Yeah. Yes.
So, until next week, when
So
we
we say
have
bye for now.
another exciting interview.
Yes.
So,
Good.
bye.
All right. Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.